Welcome to Get Chatty about your local businesses, a podcast to spotlight small businesses, side hustles, independent projects, or creative ventures serving the LGBT plus community in Melbourne and Victoria. Let's get our friends and allies to support one another through stories. Oh yes, JD returns. JD is a multidisciplinary artist, a comedian, MC, and many more things.
We talked about the ideation of how he approached comedy in a way that is authentic to himself. And on top of that, his experience of running a comedy writing workshop that allows him to help not only himself, but other people to understand themselves and express themselves.
So let's jump right in.
Have anyone heckled you?
Only positive heckling. So positive heckling is like when somebody, so in my experience, it was when I was doing a show in Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast, and there was a rather inebriated lady who just started about 3/4 of the way just yelling out, "You're amazing!
Oh.
I love you!" Which is nice, but it was derailing the joke that I was trying to tell. So I just said to her, "Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Maybe you could tell me all about it later on, because right now you're overloading my dopamine receptors, and it could actually be too much for me, too much love. So just hold on till later. You can tell me all about it."
Hey, that's one of the very enjoyable experience about being an audience of a part of the comedy festival, is that you can actually talk to the talent right away.
Comedy is a conversation. It's very much a one-sided conversation, but it's a conversation nonetheless, because there are usually moments where there's some kind of energy that the comedian wants to receive back from the audience, whether that's in terms of actual crowd work with real, proper dialogue, or just response, because we feed off the laughter and the knee slapping and the snorting and all of those noises. Just like, yes, this is the good stuff. This is what I'm here for.
And the interaction would create an extra layer of context for the show, which would be different every single show.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I haven't had a negative heckle though is because so much of my comedy, I don't consider it self-deprecating. It's more like I project such a level of confidence about the weird, or about the things that I could be trolled for or teased for. I project so much confidence about those that no one even tries, because I kind of popped that bubble before it could even blow up. So what I have
took the power of word out of them.
I take the power away from them immediately.
You did
right off the bat. I just, in my show, I give myself all of these names and labels, and just go like, I'm all of these things. So and there's just no way for anyone to what would you try? Like, you wouldn't even try after that. But even in my smaller sets that I do at local open mics here around the Gold Coast, there's this one particular venue that I love doing, because it tends to attract the real, like, rough, gnarled, toothless bogans. The old guys that you'd think are not my demographic whatsoever. And without fail, every time when I go there, one of these guys will come up to me afterwards and want to give me a hug.
Wow.
And tell me how much he loved my performance. And I think it just shatters their expectations of what they think somebody with these intersections, alignments, identities, labels, how we would express ourselves. Or, I think there's this tendency, and especially in the unfortunate and ongoing culture wars, to paint anybody left of center as being hypersensitive and unable to take a joke. And so I don't just take the jokes, I make the jokes, and and then I make them about even other intersections that are not my own, but I do so respectfully with the input of friends that I have that are parts of those communities, because I want to make it clear that, just because I could be considered, I hate the word woke, but it's more like I'm not a snowflake. You can't melt me. I'm made of steel. Come on.
Titanium.
Titanium. Yes, just like the Sia song.
It's
I am titanium. That's right.
there you go. And
Yeah.
I think this is, and the other thing is, if someone bought a ticket to go to a comedy, they know what they're doing. They know where they're getting at. It's the context again. It's the context of buying a ticket to attend the show that you already know about. What the fuck are you complaining for? You know
Well,
this
you
is
get that
happening.
because the joke is about how sometimes certain people are too sensitive, maybe certain woke people are too sensitive on behalf of other groups over issues that don't really matter.
My theory about that is there are plenty of people who kind of projecting their guilt about
Yeah.
being in the
Yeah, that
privileged
delicious, tasty
position.
white guilt, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, and this is one of the things that I like, even at work or something like that. I don't mind uncomfortable conversation, because the reason that we can have an uncomfortable conversation is to help pushing things forward into the right direction. If everyone is complacent or being too careful or too not wanting to say something that might push a button or be offensive or something like that, then we just get stuck.
We stagnate, don't we? And comedy plays a role in that process,
Yes.
an important role within our culture. So comedy plays a role in that process of keeping the conversation going forward. And I've visited 40 countries and I've lived in about five. And as far as I can tell, it's fairly universal globally that comedy does have this function of helping people approach and sometimes even confront and deal with and process uncomfortable conversations and uncomfortable situations. It's fundamentally part of progressiveness, and which is one of the things that attracts me to it, and one of the reasons why right-wing comedians are so few and far between and just come across as mean-spirited, because you can't really, because they tend to punch down, and comedy is about lampooning structures and power and norms, and being conservative is an anathema to being a conservative. So they have to make jokes about people who have less power or are less fortunate or are disempowered or disenfranchised. And it's just gross. That's why there's so few of them. And
exactly.
they're unable. So what is really the art of being popular in a grander mainstream sense as a comedian, for me, is being able to bring in people from the other side of the political spectrum in a way that they're comfortable with, by perhaps not being overt, but being a bit more surreptitious with it. Now, I haven't achieved that at all with this show, but I haven't tried to. But I do. It is something I want to aim towards in the future.
Ooh, now I'm excited. Okay, this is good, because the thing is, like, I think being this is like this is the first show that I've seen of yours. So, and now I have I have a glimpse of what the next tour that you may have in your mind kind of brewing. So I was like, yes, please.
I'll give you one keyword: mental health, which is very universal, but it's a very specific mental health topic, and I won't tell you any more than that.
I see. Oh gosh,
it
is a very important part.
It's a universally experienced situation, but yeah.
Very much. And the thing is, there are so many people with common ground. And actually, there's another thing that many people in our generation don't actively talk about: mental health. And that can be a really horrible thing to, I mean, I don't know how to
Just men of most generations have been discouraged from discussing how they feel.
Yep.
So, and most cultures and most generations have been actively discouraged. So being a man and talking about mental health issues in a way that is fun and entertaining is a massive challenge. Haven't worked out how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm really excited to rise to the occasion.
Ooh, there you go. I one of the things I work with my psychologist to one of the things that we work on is my vocabulary when it comes to articulating my emotion. And I think that's super useful because I can articulate in marketing, but then I can't articulate about myself. Then how far can I get? I won't get far. So it's very useful. So I look forward to that. And anyway, but before we go on a break, I just want to like quickly touch on the idea that because in the podcast, when I talk about like different people with independent project or small businesses or side hustle, there's areas like financial independence or work-life balance. Is it a bad thing to ask? How are you doing with that part?
No, not at all.
It's not easy.
I'm an open book. I am really comfortable talking about pretty much any aspect of myself and my life. It's not easy. You're right. It's very hard to make a living as a comedian, as an artist of any type. Extremely competitive at the entry level. It's very crowded. It's very hard to compete for exposure, and which is why so many people fall prey to the trope of working for free for exposure.
Yep. Nope. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, so the open mic scene is it is a bit of that, but you're only doing like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes. Once you're doing anything over 10 minutes, usually you get paid. And I've emceed a few open mics around Brisbane and Gold Coast, and I always get paid for those. So if you're doing anything more than 10 minutes work, 10 minutes performing, you will get paid. But I think I'm very lucky in that because I have so many intersections and so many communities that I represent and advocate for, I get opportunities that the average straight white suburban dude is never going to get. So, for example, we'll be hosting a comedy writing workshop specifically aimed at neurodivergent teenagers to help utilize the skills of comedy writing and performance to enhance everyday life skills. So things like, so for autistic people, we like to use rehearsed phrases to get through awkward or confronting or stress-inducing situations. For example, if someone tells me that they've got a relative who's died, I will always say, I'm sorry to hear that, because someone once told me that made them feel good when someone said that after their grandfather had died. So like when I was 18, I remember exactly who it was and when and where we were standing in a Video Easy at the time. Kind of how the brain works. But I remember specifically being told that felt okay. So I have used that consistently, that phrase, I'm sorry to hear that, every single time, because I don't know what to say, because I don't quite get how to put myself into that. I don't know what to ask. I don't know. There's too many possible variations, too many variables. So if I just say that, then they'll say something else that might give me another clue what to say next. And usually that's, I hope you're okay. Is there anything I can do? Which is,
it's important to have that, get that vibe from that person, because sometimes that they don't want to disclose, or they're not ready to disclose. And if you're being intrusive about that, that would be fucked up. But geez, I mean, Video Easy, geez, I mean, those shops, oh, I remember them.
Yeah, it was 1999. I remember specifically where it was and all of that. And I had just delivered a sandwich to my friend. And,
what kind of sandwich?
Steel trap. I can tell you it was, it's going to sound bizarre. It was Danish salami, hot English mustard, and capers on white bread.
Oh, that's all right.
25 years ago.
Wow.
Because part of being neurodiverse for a lot of people is having a steel trap long-term memory, but the short-term memory of a goldfish. So once I commit something to long-term memory, it's just there
It will be
forever, which
there.
makes this a very full place up here. We can get into that later.
Oh
But
yes,
what I was going to say about that rehearsed phrases and the workshop is that it can be anxiety-inducing when you start a new job, for example, and someone says,
Hmm.
"So we've got a new person starting today. Tell us something about yourself. Tell us something interesting about yourself."
I want to keep the job. I'd rather not.
I have one that I always use, which is, oh, I wear odd socks every day. And if people want to ask more probing questions, I can talk about that because it's something I know very well. But I have been using that answer for the last 20 years because it's the
There
one
you
that I
go.
have.
There
And
you
so
go.
so equipping these young people with some of these stock standard answers that are true to them, that
Yeah.
will allow them to navigate some of those moments where they might feel confused or uncomfortable, will give them more confidence going into the world.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's like that's actually one of the things that you turn what some might perceive as disadvantage into opportunity. And
And
you're
I'm getting
actually,
paid very well, which was the other point.
oh, there you go. There you go. Well, I mean, this is important. This is important because in the arts or in the creative industry, you got to make sure you get paid because there are plenty of opportunities since we met at that festival that I was like, I'm not doing it. I was like,
Yeah.
like the Rihanna song, Bitch Better Have My Money.
Uh-huh. I love that song.
Oh
But yeah,
yeah,
on top of doing this, I also design websites freelance. So I've been doing a little bit of that on the
there
side
you
just
go.
to keep the bank account full.
Yep.
But that's something that I enjoy and I find rather relaxing to some degree.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah, it's creative, and I get to just sit, go into a ADHD hyperfocus, and I can do 8 hours working on a website, and it feels like two. So
Wow.
great. I
That's
can
hey,
I can charge pretty well for that. So.
there you go. There you go. Look, I mean,
Mm,
in this day and age, we all gonna have to pay bills, especially in this current economy that we are in. So,
we
but
do, we do.
it's I think many people that I interviewed so far in upcoming is that it's not an easy path, but we choose it because it gives us a level of work satisfaction that we didn't expect or couldn't
Not just work
expect.
satisfaction, like soul nourishing satisfaction.
There you go.
I would be an incomplete human being without opportunities to express my art.
And I'm so glad that you are doing it.
Yep, more about JD to come. I feel that this is a good standalone episode because we're looking through the lens of growth and connection. Here's what I mean. Comedy is a tool for progress, to address uncomfortable conversations, and to push forward important discussions in a relatable and disarming way. For example, culture or sexuality, which are the intersections that we both cross. JD teaches the importance of owning one's quirks and identity by confidently showcasing in a self-deprecating style. Let me elaborate. Sometimes the act of punching up is a delicate exercise, not because people didn't want to listen, but it's the fear of responding in a wrong way. Self-deprecation is a surprisingly good way, with confidence, in comedy to foster that positive self-image because it disarms the audience. Now, when it comes to daily life, the setup matters, the person you're talking to, the topic of the conversation, and your existing rapport with the person. If used correctly, self-deprecation humor may exactly be what is needed. But it's not something that one should use every day because otherwise you're talking yourself down for no reason whatsoever, and that becomes harmful. So yeah, context matter. And growth and connection can also come from that candidness of talking about your mental health. In the other episodes, I spoke with counselor Sean about creating a safe space for people to discuss their mental health. It is providing something very similar in the forms of comedy. I admire JD's ability to make it something deeper and dive into something trickier. We're living in a world that is increasingly divided and anxious. If you have a moment, please head over to JD's website on the show notes and check out the clip's Instagram. It might be something that you'll enjoy. Get Chatty About Your Local Businesses podcast is produced by me, Arthur, the Chatty Curator. Thanks for your company. I hope you enjoyed this episode, learn something new, or pick up something helpful to realize your aspirations. The podcast guests are making time and appeared in kind, so please consider supporting the podcast by supporting them. Thanks for listening.